Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I didn't see you there. You startled me. We have somebody today I'm excited to talk with. We have Reality Winner. How are you doing today, Ree?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited because I'm talking to Reality Winner, a very cool person. In case you don't know, this is the bio. You're a former intelligence contractor and whistleblower who gained national attention for leaking classified documents exposing the Russian interference in 2016 elections. How's that? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I'm technically not a whistleblower. We've been over that a few times, but yeah,
Other
I still
people really
have
insist, though.
Right. Yeah, I just want to make sure that there is a clear line between a leaker who is violating a contract and is knowingly doing so, and somebody who is blowing the whistle on actual fraud, waste, abuse, actual criminal activity.
Okay. I guess these distinctions are legal and stuff, but well, in any case, there are a lot of people who believe that it was the right thing to do and that this was heroic and that truth supersedes, whatever the nation is doing to keep itself together. Have you learned since that there is this marriage between what the nation does in secret I guess that truth can't really exist in politics. Have you figured this out?
Absolutely. And I think that part of me being in the military was very pragmatic. It was, if people have good intentions behind the scenes, we won't have the need to have these secret documents with very terrible things inside of them. And that was one of my reasons for staying in the intelligence sector after getting out of the military, because I wanted to have a greater impact on the war in Afghanistan, because I had seen firsthand that our drone program wasn't actually doing anything good for anybody involved. It was not like the war on terror. It wasn't making America safer. And obviously we were, committing war crimes over in Afghanistan. So understanding that there is I guess what people would call a deep state, or just anything classified should then therefore be seen as nefarious type attitude. I went through that phase about midway through my Air Force career and had a really hard time balancing the two. And I guess now what I'm trying to say is that there will always be secrets, and there are people who are in the system trying to do good. I was one of those very naive people. But right now, what we're seeing with this administration is that a lot of this classified information, or the way that our government keeps things under wrap and keeps them secret, is very nefarious and very harmful.
Yeah. All these guys going to Epstein Island, these things released today show really nefarious connections of people and stuff. And what was your initial reaction when you learned about COINTELPRO? You mentioned this in other interviews. What was your emotional reaction to that? And then did that change you and change your mind about who you were or your career?
It definitely did, because even when we were serving, even when we had these top secret clearance going in and out of the shiny buildings, we knew that in the media, anytime our agency was involved, they were usually not the good guys. I mean, you don't even have to go deep or political into that to know, watch a Marvel movie. The government's never the good guy, surprise, I just spoiled every movie they've ever made. And so it was such a weird coming of age moment for me in that building, to realize that no matter what I had believed in and how I was raised by my father to think about other people in the world and other cultures, that, yeah, we were the bad guys. And like you said, with the documents coming out now, these Epstein files, none of that shit is new, and it's horrific. And again, it's there's so many names, and it's where are the charges? I don't understand that, because soon as they found my name, for me, I had a grand jury and an indictment within 24 hours. It's just very interesting. And so the same thing with the COINTELPRO, it was once they had their list of names, once they had Fred Hampton's name, it wasn't even like an indictment. It wasn't even like, oh, we're going to do this the legal way. We're just going to shoot him to death in his bed. And that was the United States government. And just, it's so frustrating to have to learn this stuff as an adult when you're either, you know, for me, learning about all of these things, understanding even what the Pentagon Papers were. I didn't read them until I was in prison proper. I didn't know who Dan Ellsberg was until I was in prison, already convicted. Why we're not taught these elements of the history of our country, you know, and my parents certainly didn't know any of this world either. Like, it's not just like, oh, well, my school didn't have it. It was, you know, my parents even weren't equipped to have these conversations with me. Like, no one in my life was. And it took a lot of eye-opening and being in new environments, being in very rare environments that a lot of people aren't going to be subjected to, even for me to learn it. And it's just like, things don't even have to be a secret to change the truth for some people and how they interact with the world.
Yeah. And you can assume almost in any case that a superpower is going to do exactly what it needs to do in order to stay in power. And that includes stepping way outside of what we would consider moral. So they have no issues with doing something terrible if the greater good is saving the body national. This is what Hermann Göring said when in the Nuremberg trials. So you were raised, you know, in the time of the war on terror, right? How old were you when 9/11 happened? Because I was in high school, and I remember them wheeling in the TV and making us watch it, and it was very memorable. So, what was it like for you?
I was 9. I was in 4th grade, and they did wheel in a TV for us too.
Really? Very important.
Yes, they did.
Memo from the president. Make sure every child in America sees this.
Listen, I actually had a funny experience just this past week being back in college and interacting with Gen Z every single day. This one of my classmates, she insisted that I was born in 2001. And she was like, yeah, me and Rhea are 24. Like, we're the older ones in the class. And she just kept insisting. And a couple people in the class knew, and they were laughing, and she didn't know why they were laughing. And, you know, I got offended because I was like, I was not born in 2001. I was in school. They rolled in the TV so we could watch 9/11. Like, don't take that away from me. You know, like, that's my trauma. I want that. Yeah. Like, you know, it was just funny because, like, that's, I think, for those of us who were, you know, children during that time, our big memory is they rolled the TV into the classroom.
Okay.
It's so dark.
And it didn't matter. We got through science class, and then it was the next class. And then they were like, we got to do that. We got to get the TV again and bring it in. And they did every class, and then lunch. And then after it was more, yeah. And it's tough. It was tough. And we bought it, you know, hook, line, and sinker it's like, well, yeah, I guess we got to go kill as many brown people as we can as fast as possible without anybody questioning anything. But I found out now I'm 40, and I found out recently that Osama bin Laden actually wrote a letter to the United States during that time where he says, the reason why I'm attacking you right now is because of how Israel is treating Palestinians. Mm-hmm. That hurt when I read that. And I still pass that story around, and people go, they don't know what to say. Yeah.
Yep. You learn a lot about just how much warning we had before 9/11. Our Afghan counterparts said that there's a man named Dawood, and in Afghanistan gave a live interview on TV on September 9th and said that the United States would be attacked in New York City by bin Laden. And during that interview, one of the cameramen had a suicide vest on and blew himself up to keep him from actually saying September 11th, or like he said September 11th, but he didn't say like by planes or how it would happen. In that interview, like, we knew about it, you know? We knew also that like the Taliban wasn't involved, that the leader of the Taliban didn't even know that buildings as large as the World Trade Center even existed. Like they had to bring a TV to him so he could see what happened. And his whole thing was
Wheel in the TV.
Wheel in the TV for, Mullah Omar in Kandahar. And he was like, it was like, yeah, he saw the planes go in, but he was just like, I just don't even understand how there's buildings that big, was his thing, because he was a fucking farmer.
Wow.
And that was the person we went to war against and fought them for 20 years, when his whole thing was he was going to give up bin Laden almost immediately, but they wanted extradition to an Islamic nation. That's all he wanted. He was like, I can't give him to the United States.
Do your language skills still come in handy? Do you read news from abroad? Do you still use them at all? Do you stay strong with your language stuff?
I do. Not so much the Pashto or the Afghanistan side. I always intend on doing it. It's just that language is very difficult once you start losing some of the vocabulary. But this past 3 weeks or so watching the revolution in Iran, only looking at Iranian international news and trying to watch their own live streams, because they do have some cameras on the ground, and you're going to get the broadcast firsthand from Persians instead of, trying to get it from influencers on Instagram and social media. So I've definitely been brushing up on my Farsi. Good.
Keep me posted. I will say that the situation, this is what I believe. I believe that the situation is complex, but you did post something about the Shah, when the Shah was, the women got to wear miniskirts and things were more liberal. They still were an authoritarian regime who killed and tortured people, and they were put in place by the United States after overthrowing them in 1954. So it's very complicated. Not many people understand. Only people like you and me who read will understand, but it's very bad what's happening there. With 3,000 up to 33,000, according to Western sources, have killed. And on the other hand, the protesters are also killing the police. Hundreds of police have died. And but the thing is, Trump is cheering it on, which doesn't help anybody at all. Anyway,
that's really conflicting. It makes you feel bad, because it's what if the Ayatollah didn't exist tomorrow? But then it's also Trump's not doing it for the right reasons. And then every time he backs out, somebody said every time he backs down, something more from the Epstein list gets released. It's almost like he's being punished for not bombing Iran. But it's I also understand probably everybody at the State Department is do not bomb Iran. We are not doing this right now. You know what I mean? It would just be, I don't think it would free the people of Iran.
No.
I just wish things were that simple, where it's one person goes away and an entire nation is free. I wish the world was like that.
I wish it was a Disney movie or something where the evil people are well defined, and you go, that's the bad guy there and stuff. And it's so difficult because, this is a theocracy, and the people who are upset are upset for a good reason. And part of it is living in an outdated theocracy. And the other part is the sanctions that have crippled the economy, and the economy is not doing well. All these things. These people are very young. The average Iranian's 35 years old. They want something different and stuff. But Israel is right there and wanting to turn it into something terrible. And we'd have no idea what Israel is. And we're the worst. We're the worst thing in the world right now. We're the worst.
Are we the baddies?
I think we're the baddies, honey. I'm supposed to stay professional, and the mask just slips off. I'm I don't know what's going to happen. I'm scared.
I like that you said sanctions, though, because that's something that always comes when we talk about Iran. You cannot sanction a nation into regime change.
Yeah.
Iran, Russia, North Korea, you know what I mean? They're going to have their artificially inflated economies domestically, while we sanction them. And it's the same thing with Afghanistan. It's there was no economic carrot for the Taliban to try to respect women as human beings. You know what I mean? We just immediately collapsed their economy within 6 months of the US withdrawal. And so it was we have zero bargaining power now with this newly established government. Same thing with Iran. We have no incentive, or they have no incentive to deal with anybody in the world other than BRICS.
Yeah. Yeah. And BRICS is rising. And here's the thing. China is building a future off of material power. They're building a future that's based off of something tangible that you can touch. And our economy is all speculative. It's all overpriced cough drops at fucking hospitals and, Bitcoin and shit. It's not backed by anything real, and we're in several different bubbles that could pop at any time. But what I found funny was Venezuela, this recent deal, like we kidnapped the guy and we get him out of power. He never really wanted to work with the US anyway. But, Venezuela just signed this deal where they got 300 million for the oil. Trump said, oh, let's strike a deal. And Delcy Rodriguez said, okay, let's do it. And actually, Venezuela wins because they get them to buy their oil at market value. The United States gets to keep the money in bank accounts in the United States, but the PVDA, I'm sorry, I'm going on a big thing. The PVDA, the state oil company, they still get to retain control. And so Trump wants to make it seem like it's a big thing, but Venezuela could end up like Saudi Arabia, super rich and well insulated. So anyway.
Didn't oil executives say they don't want that oil anyway?
Yeah, they said that it was too risky, that geopolitically it wasn't.
Or it wasn't even the right type that our refineries can use anymore.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Yeah, it's for like oil from 30 years ago.
Old oil sitting around. You can have
it's
it.
Old oil.
I worked at Dairy Queen. I know you have to change the oil out periodically so that when you fry that it doesn't taste bad.
I'm such an idiot. I was like, they put oil in the ice cream.
Yeah. That's why everybody's so fat. It's motor oil. They just put it right in the ice cream. The chocolate dip cones. What do you think that is? I grew up in a Dairy Queen. So my mom worked at Dairy Queen for like 40 years. And so I'm like, thorough white trash American fast food, grew up on hot dogs and potato chips. So let's move on. You went to prison. Now I've had my run-ins with the law, and you said something recently that struck me. And you said people don't know how close they are to being whisked away by police, and then you said something like this, and put behind bars and put in solitary confinement. Like you're one interaction with law enforcement away from this. When did this enter your mind? And tell me more about this, because I'll tell you my own, thing.
So obviously my arrest came as a surprise to me. So I experienced it firsthand. However, that was not without actual criminal activity preceding it. Like I never shy away from saying like I did what I did. I even told the FBI what I did with the document. So I knew that was something that happened really, really fast. And as somebody who who was charged with something political, I was probably one of the very first people under the Espionage Act that was denied bail. Typically, it was just seen as like you and your lawyers get to figure it out later type situation, especially if you were like a United States citizen and, no other, like no flight risk or anything like that. So that was like one of the big surprises, but that thought came to me sitting in that county jail and watching the women come in. Some of them were just like at a store or having a domestic dispute, and they're now in this prison, and suddenly they've got, 8 charges against them that they have no hope of fighting. I think one woman was actually charged with making terroristic statements because she said she was going to stab her husband when the police showed up. And I'm like, that's not really terrorism. Come on. It was like she spent 6 months in that jail behind those charges because you don't really get bond when you get that, Yeah. And then all those charges went away and she got to go to drug court and she was out within a week. So you really now, I feel like my little TED Talks on prison and the justice system and how quickly you could wind up in a jail cell are like outdated, because in 2026, any ICE agent can just put you in jail for no matter what. They don't like your shoes. Okay, you're going to go spend 24 hours in lockup. And that's if you're lucky. So, it's like we are literally at that point. You walk down the street, you get, you could be driving, and if they tell you to get out of the car and you don't get out of the car, you're going to get executed. It's like, I don't even know. Like, if you haven't figured out right now that every single American is a target, or if you don't want to be a target, wear a MAGA hat. I don't care if you don't even support him, just wear a MAGA hat and they won't mess with you. Like, I'm not sure why we haven't figured that out yet,
Yeah. Yeah.
And once you're in. Like, you're not getting out of that jail once you're in. If they don't give you bail, you're not getting out.
Yeah. The other thing you could say is that the most prisons are privately run, meaning that there's incentive for them to fill it up to the brim. And I published a story that said Arizona sued, the private prison industry sued the state of Arizona for not having enough prisoners. And this is the late stage capitalism we're all always talking about. But did you see elements of private prison stuff in your time? What was it like in the place? I've never been. Is it good? Should I go? 5 stars?
I mean, at this point, yeah, sure. I always say 4 years, no rent. When I talk about my time.
Might be cheaper. Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. I was lucky enough to wind up I was in 2 county facilities and a federal prison and an ICE detention center at one point. So I was never exposed to like the private prison element. But what I can say about like the economics of prison and the price markups of everything, for 4 years, every phone call cost at least $3. Sending emails cost money. Just getting food and clothing in that prison, it costs so much money for all of that. And like, even like looking at people on the outside, like talking to some of the staff in that prison, for them, that is their only economic avenue into the middle class, especially in small counties where that's the only place to work. Like in Lincoln County, Georgia, the only people in that county making above $50,000 a year are the staff members of that jail. Like, it's like that sucks, but you also don't have to be like a cruel person working there. You don't have to be part of the system. But it's interesting how many of them wind up getting sucked into the culture of cruelty and apathy. I had my boss, I always kind of say like, somebody that I thought would have my back at some point in my incarceration. I went to go say goodbye to him before I left for quarantine to get out of prison. And I said, hey man, like I'm leaving tomorrow for quarantine. I just want to let you know, like, you got to get out of here someday too.
You're
and he
in
looked
prison
at
too here, man.
Yeah. And he was so sad. He looked at, he was like, winner, like I'm trying, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like he was just like, I'm trying, this personal training thing. It's not pulling in the money like I thought it would. Cause we were both like personal trainers and coaches. So that was our connection. He was just like, I don't know what to do. Like we need healthcare. My baby, like his wife had a baby while I was there. So we knew like about his family and stuff like that. And he was just like, of course this was in the middle of 2021. So we're not like quite past the COVID days. He was like, he's like, I just, personal training, it doesn't come with healthcare. I don't know what to do.
Isn't this how it is, that they got us over a barrel? Even guys who don't want to join with ICE, they say $50,000 signing bonus, making $100,000 a year. I will rape children if I can, that's basically where Americans are at. If I can have health care, I'll do a Holocaust. That's basically how bad things are. That's so horrible. Mm-hmm. Everything's so horrible, huh? I can't believe it. Anyway, so you go into prison. And first you're in Georgia, then you get moved to Texas after somebody's fighting on your behalf to get you. Is that how it went down, or how did that go?
Yeah. So I was in Georgia until my sentencing, and then you do your little like transitioning from jail to jail while they try to get you to your prison. Because basically you can only go like on certain days. So I had to drive to Jacksonville, Florida. That's where I stayed in the ICE detention center for a while because you fly from Florida to Oklahoma City to the big transfer hub. And then from Oklahoma City, they drove us down to Carswell in Dallas, Fort Worth. Um, it took probably 6 weeks to get to prison. It was like the worst.
What did they do? They did this on purpose, shuffle you around in order to exhaust you?
That's what they call it. They call it diesel therapy. They do it on purpose. I think it does. I'm sure, I guess because I was military and I know like how the military does things logistically and moves them around. There's a part of me that's like, okay, well, when you're moving federal inmates, you can pretty much, they have to be in a jail by the end of the day. And everywhere they go, they have to be processed in as a new inmate to that facility and then booked out. So it's like, yeah, they probably have to figure out transport hubs and get them on the plane in one day and then get them to Oklahoma. Like, I'm just like, okay, part of that makes a little bit of sense. But I also think the cruelty aspect of it is to make sure that you are as tired and docile as possible when you walk into that prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This makes perfect sense. And would you describe, like, because I've heard things like prison, they'll keep the lights on for an extended period of time so you can never really get deep sleep or or feed you low protein gruel in order to keep you in a state of, what are some of the elements that you noticed like that while you were there?
I think the county jail sort of environment had a lot to do with like incompetence. Like, they would just not remember when to dim the lights. But if you are incarcerated, you will never know true darkness. There's always got to be enough lights for the cameras. There's always got to be enough lights to see like fine detail, which is why like when I got out and got home where we live out in the country, I was like, holy shit, like it's dark. I'm scared. Like I didn't go outside at night for probably 6 months because just like knowing true darkness, even outside, like not being outside at night past 8 o'clock at night, being outside for 4 straight years. I was crazy. Terrified. Like it was like the weirdest little things. Oh, I'm just going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. It's like, no, I'm actually like a hamster. Put me back in my cage, please. I had a really hard time. So yeah, you will never know true darkness. When I was in solitary confinement, that light did not dim, which pisses me off. I wasn't even on suicide watch. I was just like put in a holding cell because they didn't know what to do with me. And they never dimmed that light. And like within 7 days, I was like, yeah, I went through a lot during those 7 days.
You find that, I mean, I had to, I lived on the streets for a while. Like I lived a very rough lifestyle, hopping trains and sleeping on the streets and doing all this kind of stuff, street musician or whatever. And for years after, I would go to bed with my shoes on, with my belt on. And it took years for me to break these weird tendencies. And now I never leave my house. Are there things like that for you that you're still like, no, I got to break some of these cycles from these harder times in your life?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for me, like just never seeing a doctor for anything ever is like, really? Yeah, you don't go to medical, don't do it. And it's like, it's weird because like, it's not just for me personally, but like people around me, if someone's going to medical for something, I'm like, oh, you're going to the doctor again? Like, I don't even know your finances or your healthcare situation. I'm just like, why? You know, like, it's just like, I'm still like things like that. Definitely like the way I sleep, just certain like positions, having to have like my head covered at all times. Cause that's just that's the only way you can get any type of like, darkness or quiet. I guess I still have to be like covered up. Almost like hiding. And I think for me too, another thing is like I structure my life to be as small and as predictable as possible.
Right. Me too.
You know, other than I had a very rough first year on probation. After that, I just really enjoyed it because it was like, oh, it's the greatest excuse not to travel, not to go see my family, not to risk like, you know, just the insecurities of like, you know, getting on a plane and having to go do stuff and having to sleep somewhere new or, you know, like that was really nice. And so like right as I was getting off probation, I was just starting college. And so now I'm like in this like really like constrictive program where we're not allowed to miss more than one day a semester or else you're like out of the program entirely. And it's year round. We're going like I have class all summer long. And so now I'm just like, oh, you know, I still can't, you know, I still have a curfew because I can't just be gone all the time or I can't travel or I have 8 dogs. What do you mean I'm not going to go travel to see you? I can't be gone this weekend. You know, and I feel like I've noticed that I do those things on purpose to keep my life within the confines of like my property and my work and my school, you know?
That is so funny. I'm the same way because of years. I think my mistrust of people and seeing what people are capable of when they're under a lot of pressure, or in your case, when you see that what people can accomplish when they're bureaucratic and or just following orders, and you have this evil system. Either way, going out into public is a huge risk. That why would I take that? Like my dogs aren't even allowed to be like equal as humans when I go out to other places. Like if my dog can't go to the fucking Billy Joel concert, I'm not going to see Billy Joel. What's up, dude? What's up, cutie? Meow. I was going to tell my dog to come over. But yeah, so these things are hard. They're hard to break and they're hard to adjust. And I don't think that I'll change my mind about. And I had to run in with the police here in Germany. I'll tell you a quick story while you're petting your cat. I'm a big weed fan, always have been. It helped me escape my bad childhood and my shitty existence being a poor white trash nobody. And I still use it and I still love it. And I grew it for a long time in California. And then I moved to Germany, met a girl, settled down, and I started growing it in Germany. Got caught. And the police were such dickheads that I thought, I'm in Europe. This isn't so bad, you know? And they were like, yeah, you're lucky you're not in Ferguson, Missouri, which was the thing at the time. And they ransacked my house, made everything dirty, broke things on purpose. And then when I was fully nice to them, my mistake, treating them like human beings, told them, asked them about their lives. Do they have dogs? And I was very nice. Reality, I was very nice. And got to court, and the guy says that I was difficult and I was, resisting and stuff, that the dude lied. And I was just so pissed. That, of course, and I've always hated cops for the right reasons, but still, that I tried to and kids, don't talk to the cops. Right? Is that advice you'd give? Don't talk to the cops?
Yeah, don't talk to cops. Don't answer their questions. I know it's like, I got pulled over the other day because I bought a vehicle and I never got the sticker from them, like the registration. And so I was like, yeah, they're going to give it to me one of these. I was under the impression that they would mail it to me because that's common fucking sense. And so I got pulled over for it. And immediately the cop's like, hey, where are you going? And I was just like, I'm going home. I was like, fuck, don't answer, but, luckily for me, maybe privilege for me, but he was a professional that day. And he said, I'm going to tell you why I pulled you over. It's because you don't have a registration sticker. And I was like, fuck, yeah. I was like, listen, I bought this car August 27th. They didn't have the sticker ready and they said they would mail it. I realize it's October, but they said it would be here by the end of September, And he's like, okay, but you got to get this fixed. And I was like, okay, and then that was the end of the environment. But even for me, it's like, yeah, he asked where I was going and I just immediately told him, it's hard when you're in that situation and you're intimidated and you just want, as a woman, you want the interaction to be over with. So you answer the man's questions, which is what we're used to doing kind of on instinct.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're not a woman, if you're just a skinny, puny guy like me, I also, get the badge and the gun and the big fat beer gut comes at you and you go, just make him happy and everything will work out. And better is to say, I know my rights and rattle off a bunch of statutes. And then that can scare them off sometimes. If you can rattle off the law enough, they'll go, oh, okay. But yeah, I got pulled over in Kansas. I was traveling through with some friends and stuff. Got caught with some weed. Big deal. A little bit of weed in Kansas. It's a Bible country. They may take it really seriously. And they took my license down and they put me in cuffs and then released me and said, you have to come back for this court date. And weed was legal in Colorado, which was where I was from. And I said, yeah, I'll be back for the court date. Never fucking went back to Kansas ever again, And they called me on the phone and they go, hey, you're supposed to be in court today. Where are you? You're in a lot of trouble. And I said, fuck you. What the fuck are you going to do? And I just cussed them out. And it's like the local police department in some town. And I said, you can't fucking do shit about it. And they're like, well, we can take your license away. It's like, my license is from Colorado. And they said, well, we could do it. And I said, fucking do it. Just do it. And I hung up on them and I called their bluff and they never fucking did. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything about it. Fuck you, Kansas. Yep. I have a penchant for, I don't like authority and I never have. And I don't think I ever will. And that's why I like you. You seem hip. So you're getting out of prison and stuff. What's the process of you getting out of prison?
It sucked. It was so bad. It was so hard for me because in 2021, they had decided that you had to be quarantined for 21 days before leaving prison, even though prison was a quarantine. Like our units were still quarantined from each other. So I had to go from my locked cell unit to a single room with 9 other women in it. And we had to stay there for, I was there for 23 days because they only move on Mondays, regardless of what day you're leaving to your halfway house. You can only get into that room on Monday. So if the minimum is 21 days, you're going to spend extra days in that room. And I had already, this is how, I always like to tell people this example of how kind of desensitized and desocialized I had become over the course of COVID in a federal prison, is that my original release date was on a Thursday or a Friday. It was a Thursday, I think, because that's why I got so mad. And my counselor brought me in. He said, hey, you were supposed to leave on this day and you're supposed to get to this halfway house in Corpus Christi on this Thursday. However, because of COVID in the, June 2021, this halfway house is only accepting new inmates or new residents on Wednesdays so they can do their own quarantine. Okay. So I'm getting released on a Thursday, and instead of getting to go, I'm still in federal fucking custody. A transition house is a locked government facility. It's part of the BOP. Instead of getting to go on that Wednesday, the day before, 24 hours before, they push it to the next Wednesday. So my release date changed by 6 days. And for me, the way that they that was my good time. They took 6 days of my good time away from me. I was like, that's a whole fight. I could have gone and beaten the shit out of somebody and lost 6 days of good time and gotten out of prison on the same fucking day that they were going to release me anyway.
Yeah.
Because they took those days from me and then having to spend 23 days in one room. You don't leave that room for 23 days.
Jesus Christ.
And we had kept, the phone calls were 5 minutes and they were taking a telephone from room to room because there's no phones in that room because it's a hospital room. And depending on who was on shift, it was all of the rooms on one side of the hallway got the phones on Mondays and then the other side of the hallway got it on Tuesdays. We could see out of our room and we could see that the other side of the hall kept getting the phone. We didn't get the phone for 3-4 days, during which time inmates in my room were notified that you're no longer getting released from prison. because Trump changed the CARES Act. No, it was under Biden. Like something about the CARES Act got changed.
Okay.
And so they were no longer eligible and they're not going home.
Oh, fuck.
And they're also not being given a phone to tell their families to not come pick them up. And so I was just like, okay. And then so the next time we saw that the other side of the hallway got the phone again, only because they were telling the officer that it was their turn. And the officers just believed it. And so we were trying to tell the officers that 3 women in this room need to use the phone to call their families. And the officer's like, well, this side of the hallway is not getting the phone today. It'll get it tomorrow. Different officer comes in, gives the phone to the other side.
Oh, dude.
So I'm just like, I went ape shit. I was kicking the door, punching the door. They sent a counselor in. I said, I need a lieutenant. And legally, they have to bring a lieutenant. They did it.
Okay.
And I just kept screaming. I was like, give me a lieutenant. I want a lieutenant. I want a lieutenant. Like using some expletives. I mean, we're not allowed to socially say now. The one that starts with the letter F, by the way, because this guy used to be in the military and I knew how to get under his skin by calling him a certain word that started with the letter F. And he did. He got really mad and he kicked the door in my face and nothing happened. And then the next day, that counselor came in and she was like, Miss Winter, I brought your lieutenant. And in walks this lieutenant, like the meanest motherfucker on that compound. She waited till he was working. And I went and had a conversation with him and she was so mad about that. And we got the phones. But he was just like, yeah. And he was like, Winter, you can't be doing this though. He's like, you don't understand. Like outside this room, outside this hallway, I got stuff I got to do. And I was like, yeah, I know about the fight in this unit and I know about the mental health unit and I know who did this and that. And I just told him all the business. I knew why they were busy the day before. Like I already got like, you know what I mean? Because amnesia, I know everything. And, you know, he was just like, how do you know? And I was like, read my file. What am I here for? Like, come on now. Like I'm a spy. Like, you know, the Russians
smarter than you.
Yeah. So, but they brought the phone and he was just like, you got to stop acting like this. But I just remember that counselor, like just like the smug smile getting wiped off her face because I wasn't afraid of this lieutenant. And that's what she had wanted.
Well, she's like the Machiavellian one who wants people to suffer. And the other guy's got more in common with you military wise. I mean, you speak his language enough to get through to him, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what it's amazing that you can have that level of politics within the system that you could even negotiate with a guy like that.
Yeah. I mean, and I told him, I said, I'm not going to use the phone. Like, I just want it for these 3 women and then we'll figure out our other stuff with this guard. But that was the person, that version of me, that was the me that walked out of that prison the next week. You know, because it took like 6 months of just constantly getting deconstructed and constantly getting like abused by the system. And then being told, hey, like all these federal regulations about like y'all's well-being and what we have to provide for you guys. Well, I don't know. We found some COVID somewhere. There's one COVID in this prison somewhere. And now you guys don't have human rights.
Dude,
you know,
so this was the worst of it. The worst of it was when COVID hit. And then you also said in another interview, you said that what was the deal with the police? Like they were sent somewhere else, or they come to you and they just beat the shit out of you? What was the deal there?
Yeah, so we were put on lockdown after the murder of George Floyd, and everybody was speculating as to why. And, you know, obviously we're a women's unit, so we're like, double why? Like, this doesn't make sense. We don't throw riots like this. And then we found out the entire Bureau of Prisons was on lockdown. And we were like, okay, I mean, like, yes, the men act like damn fools. Why are we on lockdown? And so then I found out by listening to the radio that lots of the riot control forces in DC at the time came from the Bureau of Prisons, causing a nationwide shortage of riot task forces within the prisons. And so once that shortage is reached, every prison in the country goes on lockdown. regardless of staffing at individual places.
Okay.
And so, and of course, we knew like the way that those task forces were treating people on the streets in broad daylight. And then it was my biggest fear that they would come back to our prison with that same attitude.
Yeah. How long did this last?
It was 8 days for us. Other units were locked down for much longer. But within 3 weeks, we had our first COVID breakout in the unit. And that time we weren't allowed to leave our cells for 33 days.
Didn't help? Did you guys get sick anyway? What was it like? You got sick eventually, right?
Yes, we did get sick. My unit, we were called the Dirty South. We had like a 92% infection rate in our unit. I was probably the super spreader because I was doing a lot of drugs at the time, and I was always jumping from room to room to try to get to my girlfriend and then to get to the drugs. So like I was exactly. And I was the person in charge of cleaning the unit because I was like the only person that could stand and walk around and function while having COVID.
Wow.
So yeah, there was a tough ass. Yeah, exactly. Like nobody could get out of bed. And I was like, these floors aren't going to mop themselves. You know, anything to get out of my fucking cell for, 2 hours.
Oh my God.
So yeah, we had a very high infection rate. People were very scared. People were collapsing. But we just knew, do not go to a medical unit. Don't ask for help, don't ask for medicine, and don't tell them if you feel sick.
Okay. Just because they'll cut you into pieces and put you into quarantine and starve you and...
Yeah, so nobody knew how bad the quarantine units were. We just knew that you were out of our direct line of vision. Like we can't see each other. I had a roommate who had a brain tumor at one point, and so she had a shunt like on her skull. And I don't know if you caught the 2020 version of COVID, but it had a very intense headache that lasted like 48 hours, that particular COVID. And she was scared because she could feel it in the shunt.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah. So she asked to be sent to medical. She thought that she would get help. When she got there, it was 13 women in one hospital room, sleeping on mats on the floor. They were kicking the food into the unit because they didn't want to risk contamination. And when the nurses would come by, everybody got some type of like tranquilizer, is how they chose to treat them. What? Yeah, so they were given like trazodone, tramadol, like just anything that they could just to keep them asleep and docile. So when my friend came back, she said that that was the biggest regret of her entire like prison experience, was thinking that there was medical help waiting.
Oh my God. I think when it reaches into the realm of medical interventions, when you're talking about medical interventions and law enforcement in the same sentence, this is very, very dark and really creeps me out. Like the reports that the cops were using ketamine to subdue suspects during these protests and stuff. Doesn't strike me as too nice. So all human rights are off the table as soon as you're in uncharted territory as far as this pandemic. Did you ever find out anything? Did anybody ever expose this?
So I know the particular prison I was at was under, like there is, if you go and search for it, a lot of news because we had the first federal inmate who died of COVID-19 in custody. Her name was Andrea Circle-Bear. She had a drug conviction off of a reservation. I'm not really sure the state she was from, but she, at the point when she was being transferred to our prison in March or April of 2020, she was 7 months pregnant. So they had a woman who was 7 months pregnant in federal prison custody during the height of the COVID hysteria, we don't know what this virus does to pregnant bodies. And not just that, but transporting her from unit to unit to get to Carswell. She gets to Carswell, within a day, collapses, is in a coma, delivers her child prematurely in a hospital, and she passed away chained to a hospital bed as a federal inmate after giving birth to her child. Yes. So that was my prison. That is what, we were aware of as we all started to contract COVID. The officers would say things like, if this virus shuts down the government, we're going to have to take y'all out back and shoot you, stuff like that. We didn't, you're in the prison and you're thinking about things like, what if this virus really is that terrible and these people never come back to work? For the first time, you're actually looking at those doors like, if these people don't come back, how do you get through that door?
Christ, dude. I saw a Twilight Zone that was about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like things like you're thinking about that constantly. It's like, it was so and like I said, like the medical aspect of it, we knew other women who had passed away from COVID in the units, and their families had to pay like $13,000 for the remains. If you die in prison, your family has to pay to get your corpse. And that's obviously, that is a tool of tyranny, because we're seeing that in Iran right now, where, they're telling people you have to bring pastries to get your loved one's body back. You have to show that you're celebrating. You have to pay bribes to get the body back. If you can't find your loved one in a quick enough time, take a body, anybody. If you hear somebody screaming from within a body bag, if you say anything about it, you don't get to go home with your loved one's remains. Mm-hmm. People are just going and searching through thousands of body bags to find theirs, after having gone through so much trauma just to even have access to that space. That is a tool of tyranny as well. What we do, and just like in the United States probably influenced it all, the way that, for hundreds of years after this country was created, the way that we have treated the remains of enslaved Africans in this country. They were put on display. You don't get to have those remains. There's still indigenous remains in the Smithsonian that different tribes don't get to have. They don't get to bury them. You can really tell the depravity of a dictatorship or of tyrannical governments and establishments by how they treat the remains of human beings.
Mm-hmm.
That's so dark. I'm sorry.
Oh, go there, girl. Go there. I'm there 100% every day. I have to fucking live it. I've lost faith in humanity in that case, because it seems like if you're not evil and trying to take over and seize control of everything, that you're just lackadaisically letting it happen. And there's like 10% of the population actually give a fuck and are willing to do something about it. You apparently risked a lot to expose enough to people don't give a fuck. They're just waiting for the next movie to come out and the next cheeseburger to slide down their gullet. It was tough. Snowden released all that shit and people just shook their head at it. So I think George Carlin was right. The human game was over a long time ago, that we're just watching it. Humanity circle the drain and we're all enjoying the ride. Now that's dark. That's dark. But really, we have to be honest with where we're at, because we're not in a good spot. We might defeat evil in some of these situations that are happening, but sort of the way humans are, I don't know if we'll ever cure that. And I'm rooting for the animals or the fungi, whoever takes over after we're gone. I'm rooting for the earthworms and stuff, because it's embarrassing to be human beings sometimes, don't you think?
It is. And I worry, obviously, we're not going to make it much longer, but I do worry that the world that we leave behind us, you know what I mean? Okay, sure, we all died. Do the coral reefs come back? That's my dark thought at the end of the day. We've already done so much damage. with this mass extinction, who knows? Like, we could all disappear tomorrow. Does the planet continue to heat up because we've passed so many turning points?
Yeah. You know, the funny part is in 2020, when they had the shutdown, there's this thing called the aerosol masking effect. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's the idea that the particles that we emit in the fossil fuels, they're actually reflecting sunlight, right? And that they're actually bouncing out a lot of the heat that we should be experiencing out. So if we stopped doing heavy industry now and did a full green transition, that it might superheat to an insane degree. And in 2020, when everything shut down, it did. It was one of the hottest summers on record. And you had satellite footage of all this CO2 kind of going away and stuff. And the protests, this was a hot fucking summer. So there is, and scientists are pointing out that there was a correlation there between that. So we don't even know to what degree, even if we stopped, that we might super boil. You know, it's a very fascinating time to be alive. So moving on, how do you cope, reality winner, with this new paradigm? What keeps you sane? What keeps you happy? Tell me the joys before we get too dark and bum everybody out. What do you love? What are things that are sacred, that are still good?
Weightlifting. Really, that's what keeps me going. You know, being a coach, being there for my coaching community, but just working out. I think like every day I'm tired. I have 2 torn rotator cuffs. I'm just always tired. But when I start the workout, when I actually start doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm just like, yeah, I'd pretty much rather would be doing this than anything else in the world. You know, I'm like, this is the only thing I genuinely enjoy. And then, you know, at the end of the day, I go home and take care of our 8 dogs. And I have a dog named Franny. Everybody who, if you know me, you know Franny. She's my Dogo Argentino. And, you know, we made some mistakes when she was a puppy, and now she's very reactive. But she's also 90 pounds. So when you have a 90-pound dog that is reactive and bonded only to you, you know, I mean, there's 2 places in the world that she can be. She can be with me, or she can be with the breeder, because I went with the right breeder. He has a return contract. By law, Franny cannot go to a shelter. Like, I cannot rehome her. He will take her back. He's like, that's my dog too. Like, we share her, is how much he loves what he does, and he loves his dogs. So like I've done everything right with this dog. And so anytime I feel so radical and so jaded, and I'm just like, I'm ready to throw everything away again, like I did in 2017, I'm like, Franny, like, nobody else loves Franny the way that I do. And she doesn't have anywhere in this world to go other than me, because, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I trust that guy. He's going to take great care of her. That's fine. But like, who knows that? Like, I don't even have that legally. Like, that's not in my last will and testament. And of course, you can't even enact a will if you're in police custody. So like, I have this spiral. Every time I'm like, I just want to go, like, I want to go to Minneapolis and protest and whatever. I'm just like, you have this reactive dog and you have to keep her alive. And you can't do that if you're in jail, you know?
You're a mom.
Like I said, I've built my life to be very small.
Dude,
so like, that's
I did, and I heard you beat yourself up over, you know, some other things. Like you want to do more. And then this lady was like, she was right when she said, you don't have to do more. You just need to take care of yourself. And like you've done, you've minimized your life, keep the expectations low, keep the unpredictable stuff out. And then beyond that, these little moments that we're having now, we're going to broadcast this, and they're going to get to see 2 halfway decent people having a nice conversation. And then, you know, everything helps right now that we spread this information. You keep posting about Iran, all this shit. We do what we can, but you have to be, I hope that you're doing this. I hope that everything that you do, that you understand what you've been through before you put too much weight on your own shoulders.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to tell you that for a while, because I think
I'm never going to be someone who looks away. I'm never going to be somebody who's like, oh, I'm not political. You know, I have to be smart, because I do, like, I'm probably on a list. I'm probably going to be on a list for forever right now. So I've got to be really smart with, you know, my form of activism. And I always tell people, the least you can do is do no harm. And one of the biggest ways we express ourselves is how we spend our money. And there's so many times there's like yesterday, for example, like there was like a national blackout day. I packed a lunch. I went out of my way to make sure that yesterday I did not swipe my card or spend a dollar, you know? And it's like, it was so small. It was just like, make sure you have, you know, food and water so you don't have to go make that impulse purchase. You know, don't purchase anything online for a day. I deleted my Amazon account. Like, I'm looking into the brands that I use to make sure I'm not like giving money to the wrong people. And a lot of it's like, if you have the privilege of having the time and the literacy to follow up on that, use it. Do not give your money to people who are doing bad things. Buy your clothes, buy your shoes secondhand. Don't pay big corporations. Oh, there are some brands that I really like, you know, Nike and Under Armour. Love their clothes, love their sports bras. Not going to give them my money. I'm going to buy everything secondhand on Poshmark. Like,
there you go.
There's so much more that you can do. You can still have the things you want. You just got to take like one more step to get it. And if you can't go to a protest, like there's a protest right now happening in Corpus, I cannot get arrested and miss even a day of this program. Because I can't be a vet tech if I get kicked out of this program.
Don't stay.
I know.
Stay home. I know the feeling though. Yeah.
But then it's like you get on social media and it's like white women, like go do shit. And I'm like, I'm trying, just give me till 20. Like I'm trying, like I did some shit.
Dude, you're a fucking, look, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You're an institutional voice now. John Kiriakou will not shut up. He goes on everybody's podcast and just talk, says, this is wrong. This is right. And dude, this is your job now. And this puts you in a very good position because you can do it from home and you don't have to leave and the cops probably won't find out. And you start networking with like-minded people there's like an army of people who really respect you for many, many reasons. And I think that's the ultimate thing that you can do. There's frontline soldiers. Once you get, you've been in the military and then you rise up to a rank where you don't have to do peeling potatoes and, killing people on the front lines. You can sit back and take what you've learned. And I don't know why I'm giving you a pep talk, but I adore you, and I'm in your corner 100% from here on out. And I just think you're great. That's all.
Thanks.
I got nervous talking.
So, if I joined, there are defense groups out there, if you know where to look, and they're arranged by region. And they're on, encrypted apps. And it's basically a support network chat room in the United States. And we have different groups. We have a medical group, right? You talk about how to prepare a medical go bag that has supplies to deal with gunshot wounds, for example.
Okay.
There's things that people need to know about. Like if you're in the United States right now, your home needs to have a medical kit that can deal with a gunshot wound. And that's where we're at right now. And I don't think a lot of people know that. They don't know how to do that. They didn't even know they needed to put the research into that. Talking to people about what are your state laws? Do you have the right to carry? What are your legal options for self-defense? Some states ban mace, but they don't ban bear spray. What can you do? And women, we've had these conversations forever, but now it's time to have it at that higher level of, what do you do if somebody in a mask approaches you on the street? Like, what are your rights? Or what equipment should you have already had on your person? Or if you're walking down the street or if you're at a protest and somebody gets shot, like what medical supplies should you have had on your person? There are organizations that are doing that, and you have to learn how to protect yourself and have OPSEC because there's feds in those too. They're in those rooms. But take the benefit and then take the solidarity that you can get. I would say if you really my shout out always goes to U.S. Army Overlord. And I think he's in Minneapolis right now, but he started with a protest in Washington, D.C. and he live streams on YouTube. And he has a lot of videos out there, how to treat wounds, how to put together a go bag. What is a go bag? What supplies do you as an individual need for 30 days if everything gets shut down? If we go under martial law and everything gets shut down, what should be in your pantry and how long will it last you and your family?
Yeah.
There are resources like that. And, what I would tell anybody, start thinking tactically, start thinking about this.
Yeah. I couldn't say it any better. I've been saying it recently to my wife, and my wife's like, shut up, stop telling me all this stuff. I'm like, there's a revolution coming. You have to learn about military strategy. You have to understand how to surprise your enemy, how to confuse your enemy. The tricks that are being employed against you are massive and, well thought out, and they come from playbooks that are decades, hundreds and thousands of years old. They know what they're doing. You can't just be, weekend warrior. Like, there's serious shit is about to hit the fan.
Stop arguing with people in the comments.
Yeah. Stop just complaining all the time. Like, that's going to change anything. Like, no, now is the time to like get a little silent and get like a little organized and get a little tougher. Like, dude, just in the last few months, I've beefed up because I used to be a pencil neck guy, but I'm like, dude, revolution's coming out. Give me the creatine. Better pump it up. And I've gotten bigger. I don't know if I'll see any action here in Germany, but surely it's good idea to be prepared because laws are being stripped away and we're in unprecedented times. And we're seeing the collapse of an empire in real time that's hungry for violence and fueled by conspiracy theories and hate. And yeah, you're right. At some point, the talking has to stop and the action has to start. We've gone way over time. Will you come back and do this again with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I think you're the bee's knees. I think you're a wonderful human being. I was so nervous to meet you. I thought, this woman is so cool. And my wife too, she's like in the background being like, oh, it's so cool you're talking to her. Come back and do it again. One last question. Are you still vegan? Do you still eat mostly plant-based?
No. So I had to add some meat back in after COVID. Like, I still can't eat fresh fruits or raw vegetables. Ooh. I am now allergic to onions now as well.
Oh, honey.
It completely changed my palate. So like, I got out of prison and I made all these salads and kale, and all of it made me sick. And I kept trying and kept trying and kept trying. And I was just so tired and so weak all the time. And I was just like, I just want Whataburger. I just want Whataburger. Yeah. Oh, so I do eat chicken about 3 days a week. I will not eat beef. I will not pay for beef. I mean, that's just, cows are way too sentient. They're adorable, beautiful. I love them. I'm going back to soy milk. I was on whole milk for a couple of years. I'm going back to soy milk. And like I said, just telling people with your activist, you don't have to go vegan to reduce the harm in your diet. And you don't need to have chicken every single day. Like, trust me, I just put 200 pounds over my head for the first time. And I'm just an average athlete with torn rotator cuffs, strong as fuck. Like, I'm really proud of where I've come. I can run super fast too. I don't have to have 150 grams of protein per day. Like, that is a myth, and just start eating. Don't eat sentient creatures. Eat chickens. But no, I can't be vegan anymore.
At the first, I was like, well, I'll eat the least charming animals and then work my way.
So you're going to eat people.
I do it. That's the first meat that I'll go back to. As soon as all the other food sources dry up, it's either fungi or I'm going to have a nice slice off somebody's ass cheeks and just grill them up real nice. They'll be so fatty and juicy, What part of the person would you eat, Reality?
Oh, God, no. People are disgusting.
Yeah. This one was fed on Doritos and Mountain Dew for 6 months. That means he's extra tender and extra juicy. Yeah, we'll end it there. Go vegan if you can, folks. I'm vegan myself, but if you have to eat a chicken, Make sure he's not looking. Reality Winner, thank you for tell people where they can find you, or if you don't want them to find you, tell them, your book's out. You're going on a book tour soon?
My book's out. I don't like my book, but and I don't get any money for it. But if you want to buy it and support the publishers are very. We're an independent publisher, woman-owned publisher. So I Am Not Your Enemy by Spiegel and Grawl. Please support the people that I love. I'm on Instagram as Reezelpuff. I do share a lot. If you want to know more about like Iran and what's going on there, I'm always like looking for more material to amplify. I'm also on Blue Sky. I think it's still at Reezelpuff. I don't know. That's where I hate on boomers and say really shitty things to people. So my entire Blue Sky personality is like bringing Twitter to Blue Sky, minus like the swastikas.
Just make it nasty.
Just make it nasty. Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's what the left is missing, is that nastiness.
I'm trying to inspire the spite, rather.
You should. Yeah. In spite. That's what you're in spite or somebody. Yeah.
Yep.
When you call that guy I think when you know what you're doing, that word is reserved for those people now, not like the LGBT. No, it's not for them. It's for these people who really don't like it. I think we need to just forget about the language and just go into action. Fuck it. Forget it. Let me cut it now and then we'll talk right after. Bye, everybody. See ya.
Bye.